I moved into apartment 306 on a rainy Friday evening. The air smelled stale, like something had been sealed shut for years. The building was old, bricks cracked like they held secrets they couldn't tell. The hallway lights flickered above me as I dragged my luggage down the damp corridor. No one came out to greet me. No sound, no footsteps, just the hum of silence. I put the key in the lock and paused. There was a chill, not from the weather, but from the door itself. It felt wrong, like it was warning me, but I ignored it. Click. The door opened with a slow, groaning creak. Inside, the room was darker than it should have been, even with the window open. There were no sounds of the city. No cars, no horns, no life. I dropped my bag and turned on the light. It flickered once, buzzed, and died. I laughed nervously, pulled out my phone, and used the flashlight. Dust floated like ash in the beam, settling on old floorboards and forgotten stains. The apartment had one room, a kitchenette, and a tiny bathroom. The mirror in the bathroom was cracked, and it faced the shower directly. As I leaned in to inspect it, something behind me moved in the reflection. I spun around. Nothing. Just a crooked towel rack and an empty shower. I stared at the mirror again. My reflection wasn't smiling, but I was. I backed away and shut the door. I told myself I was tired, stressed, imagining things. But deep down, I knew something was off. The silence of the apartment wasn't peaceful. It was waiting. Waiting for me to shut the lights and close my eyes. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun slowly. It clicked with every turn, like an old metronome counting down. My eyes grew heavy, but sleep never came. Instead, I heard it. A soft thud from the kitchen. It wasn't loud, but it was definite. Real. I sat up slowly, heart tapping against my ribs. The room looked exactly the same. Still, undisturbed. But the air had changed. It was heavier, colder, as if the apartment itself had inhaled. I got out of bed, barefoot, and tiptoed to the kitchen. The faucet dripped once, then again. Then, a third time, like a pattern. Drip, drip, pause, drip. I reached out and twisted the knob tight, but it wasn't loose. And then I saw it. The glass cabinet was slightly open. I pushed it shut slowly. As I turned to leave, all the cabinets behind me burst open at once. Crash! Plates shattered on the floor around me. I stumbled back, slipping, catching myself on the counter. The lights flickered wildly, casting shadows that moved against the walls. Then, silence. Everything just stopped. Like nothing ever happened. But my heartbeat was a drum in my ears. I turned off the kitchen light and walked backward out of the room. The moment I stepped into the hallway, the kitchen light turned back on. That night, I tried to sleep again, but my ears wouldn't rest. From the ceiling above came soft thumps, like someone pacing slowly, back and forth. Heavy steps. But apartment 406 was supposed to be vacant. I remembered the landlord saying it had been empty for months. I tried to ignore it, pulling the covers over my head. But then the footsteps stopped, directly above my bed. A second later, tap, tap, tap. 3 knocks on the ceiling. Not random, targeted, precise, as if someone knew where I lay. I jumped up, grabbed a broom, and hit the ceiling back. "Who's up there?" I shouted. No answer, just silence again. I stepped into the hallway, climbed the stairs to the 4th floor. Apartment 406's door stood shut, but something scraped softly behind it. I knocked. No response. I leaned close to the door, ear against the wood. My heart thudded. I could hear breathing, ragged, slow, and wrong. It wasn't human. It wasn't right. Then the breathing stopped, and the doorknob twisted slightly. 16:9 horror image of an apartment interior with dusty wooden floors. A trail of bare footprints, covered in grime, starts at the entrance and ends right at the edge of the bed where the man stands staring in shock. I didn't sleep the next night. I couldn't. Every corner of the apartment seemed to breathe. The walls weren't just silent, they were listening. At exactly 3:13 a.m., I heard it. Whispering. Low, breathy voices. From inside the walls. 16:9, cinematic horror image of a man with his ear pressed to a cracked wall, his face pale with fear. Behind him, in the mirror's reflection, a faint humanoid shape stands motionless, featureless, and almost blending into the shadows. I spun around. Nothing. But the whispers grew louder, crawling from one wall to the next. It felt like the apartment was closing in. I covered my ears, but the sound seeped inside my skull. Then the lights started to flicker again, faster this time. I ran to the bathroom and splashed water on my face. The cracked mirror stared back. But something had changed. There was writing now, scribbled into the glass with a black, ash-like smear. "Don't listen to them," it said. I hadn't written it. I backed away and tripped over the sink's edge. I hit the floor hard. My nose bled. The walls started whispering again. Louder, faster, layered. Dozens of voices, laughing, crying, whispering secrets I shouldn't hear. And beneath it all, something growled. The next morning, I finally opened the door to leave. The hallway was darker than usual, as if the light bulbs had dimmed on purpose. As I stepped out, I noticed something odd. Apartment 308, the one across from mine, had its door open for the first time. An old woman stood there, staring at me without blinking. She didn't move. Just stood there. Then, in a voice like sandpaper, she whispered, "You heard them too, didn't you?" I froze. My throat dried up. "I don't know what you mean," I lied. She stepped forward. "They talk when the walls are hungry." I felt cold suddenly. She looked past me, toward my apartment door. "They found another listener," she muttered, then turned and began to shut her door. Before disappearing, she said, "Whatever you do, don't stay after midnight. They'll notice you." Then the door slammed. Back in 306, I couldn't shake what she said. Don't stay after midnight? But I lived here now. I pulled out my phone to research the building. Found nothing, except one forum post from 2003. "Don't move into room 306. It doesn't let people leave." My hands trembled. I searched for more. Building records, past tenants, anything. And then I found an old article. Tenant found dead in room 306. Cause, self-inflicted wounds. No signs of struggle. Below it, a grainy photo of a man. He looked exactly like me. That night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep. The apartment felt like it was breathing again, deeper this time. The walls pulsed like veins beneath skin. Even the air buzzed with a low, unnatural frequency. And then came the sound, crawling, from inside the walls. I grabbed my phone and opened the flashlight. The beam flickered, weak, like it was scared too. The floor creaked beneath me, but I didn't move. The sound was circling the room from behind the walls. And then a voice whispered, "You shouldn't have stayed." The lights went out completely. Pitch black swallowed the apartment. I couldn't even see my own hands. Suddenly, something touched my back. Cold. Wet. Wrong. I turned around slowly and saw nothing. I stumbled back and fell to the floor. The whispers returned, louder now, screaming in my ears. I covered them, but the sound was inside my skull. Then, from the corner, it emerged. Tall, twisted, bone-thin, and smiling with a mouth that stretched too far. It didn't walk. It slithered forward, its neck bent sideways with a slow crack. I tried to scream. No sound came out. It leaned in close, its face inches from mine, and it whispered in my own voice, "You were always here." I don't remember how I moved, only that I did. I ran past the thing, through the walls, the hallway, the front door. But the hallway never ended. It kept stretching, growing longer. Every door I passed was open, and inside each one, a version of me stood staring, some crying, some laughing. One was hanging from the ceiling. I screamed, but there was no echo, no sound, just the soft hum of the hallway lights, buzzing like insects. I reached a stairwell at last, bolted down 2 floors, heart racing. The front door stood open, and the city was outside. I ran into the street without looking back. I stopped only after 4 blocks, panting, sweating, shaking. But something was wrong. The city was empty. No cars, no people, not even wind. Every billboard was blank. Every building looked identical. It wasn't the city I knew. It was a copy. I pulled out my phone to call someone. No signal, no apps, just one notification. "You are home." I dropped the phone. It shattered on the pavement, but no sound. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me, slow and steady. I ran again into an alley, heart pounding in my throat. But when I came out the other side, I was back in front of apartment 306, same broken door, same hallway, light flickering above. It was waiting for me. And I couldn't leave. I stepped back into 306, not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. The hallway vanished the moment I crossed the door. Behind me, just a wall. No exit, no handle, no escape. The room looked exactly the same, but felt entirely different. It was colder, deeper, like I had stepped inside a body instead of a room. I reached for the light switch. Nothing. The walls began to groan like bones shifting under skin. A heartbeat echoed. Not mine. Louder, stronger, surrounding me. The mirror across the room showed me, staring. But the reflection smiled before I did. I stepped toward the mirror. My reflection copied me, but the room in the mirror looked different, cleaner, brighter, normal. I raised my hand. The reflection raised his. Then it lowered its hand, while mine stayed up. The reflection leaned forward and stepped out of the mirror. It looked exactly like me, but its eyes were lifeless, dead black. I stumbled back, but the door was gone. Finally, it whispered, "My turn to leave." And it walked past me, smiling. I ran to the window. But outside, there was no city, no sky, just walls, endless walls, apartments stacked forever. Every window across from me showed me, all of them screaming, banging, trapped in 306 of their own. I understood then. No one ever left room 306. It didn't kill you. It became you, and I was no longer me. The apartment was supposed to be a fresh start. Saira had left the chaos of her last city behind, seeking quiet, peace after a traumatic breakup. The listing online had made it seem perfect, clean, cheap, close to work. But from the moment she turned the key, the silence inside felt too complete. Not calming, not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that waits for you to make a sound, so it can copy it. The landlord was brief. Too brief. He didn't give her a tour, didn't explain the oddly painted vents along the ceiling. "Heat system's old," he muttered. "Just don't touch anything above shoulder height." Then he vanished down the hallway before she could ask more. That night, she unpacked. That night, the noise began. It started with a wheeze, like something struggling to exhale from within the ducts. Saira looked up from her laptop. It wasn't a gust of air. It was rhythmic, labored, like someone breathing slowly. She stood on a chair and listened. It stopped. Later that night, as she lay in bed, the sound came again. This time it was closer, directly above her. Exhale. Inhale. Pause. Exhale. She turned on the light and stared at the vent. It stared back. By the third night, the breathing wasn't alone. There were whispers, too soft to make out words, but definitely not wind. She tried recording it, but the phone picked up nothing. At 2:17 a.m., she finally yelled up, "Who's there?" The answer came instantly, a whisper in the same tone as her own voice. "I live here too." Saira dropped the phone. She ran to the kitchen, heart racing, and grabbed a broom. She stabbed it into the vent. But there was no resistance, just empty space. She confronted the landlord the next day. His face changed the moment she mentioned the breathing. "You didn't open the vent, did you?" he asked, eyes wide. "I poked it." He swore under his breath and looked around nervously. "There was a tenant once," he said. "Guy disappeared 10 years ago. Police searched every floor, every room, but they never checked the vents." Saira laughed, confused. "You're not serious." He didn't smile back. He was small, flexible, liked to watch people sleep. That night, she set up her webcam, pointed directly at the vent. She went to bed with the lights on, pretending to sleep. At exactly 3:03 a.m., the camera blinked, and a soft click came from the ceiling. The vent opened. Slowly. A pale face peeked out. Sunken eyes, smeared mouth, bald head. He moved like a lizard, arms first. The thing hung from the vent like a spider, and when it dropped to the floor, the camera glitched. Saira didn't survive the 6th night. Not as herself. She ran for the front door, but it wouldn't open. The walls felt closer, tighter, as if the apartment were shrinking. The vent above her bedroom was wide open now. The last video recovered from her phone shows her crawling into the vent. Voluntarily, smiling. Her eyes completely black. Her limbs bending wrong as she vanished into the shadows. The breathing continues now, but it's hers. It was a cold, stormy Friday night when Ryan first heard the doorbell. Ding-dong. He wasn't expecting anyone. Not at 3:33 in the morning. The neighborhood was quiet, surrounded by woods, the kind where darkness presses against your windows like a weight. He peeked through the curtain. No one was there. He waited. Silence. As he turned back toward the bedroom, the doorbell rang again. This time it was louder, insistent, and followed by a soft knock. But still, no one stood outside. Ryan stepped out with a flashlight, his breath visible in the air. The night felt heavier, like it wasn't just dark. It was full. As he walked toward the edge of the driveway, the beam of light caught something. A tall, still figure was standing near the tree line, motionless. It didn't flinch when the light hit it. He shouted, "Hello? You okay?" No answer. He took one step forward, and the figure stepped backward at the exact same time. Not walking, gliding. Then it slowly raised one arm and pointed toward the house. Back inside, Ryan locked every door. He closed the blinds, turned off all lights, and tried to convince himself it was nothing. But just as he lay back down, he heard a sound he couldn't ignore. A whisper, faint, echoing down the fireplace flue. His blood ran cold. He crouched beside the hearth, listening. The whisper grew louder. A single word, repeated, "Let me in." He grabbed a log and stuffed it up the chimney, but the voice turned angry. It hissed, the walls groaned, and the lights went out. A cold gust blew through the living room. The front door was wide open, though Ryan was sure he had locked it. He approached slowly, baseball bat in hand. The room felt emptier now, as if something had entered and taken something with it. He heard footsteps upstairs, slow, deliberate. He whispered to himself, "No one's here but me." But his voice shook, and from upstairs, he heard it echoed back in the exact same tone. "No one's here but me." The thing wasn't human. It looked like Ryan, but wrong. Its skin was pale like wax, eyes empty sockets. It moved like a puppet on strings, tilting its head too far, smiling too wide. "I'm your replacement," it said, in Ryan's own voice. He swung the bat. It passed right through the figure. The thing just laughed, a wet, crackling sound. Ryan turned to run, but the lights flickered, and the hallway was filled with mirrors. Every reflection showed Ryan, except one. Ryan locked himself in the bathroom. He couldn't hear anything now, just the slow drip of water from the faucet. He stared into the mirror for what felt like hours. Eventually, the reflection blinked, but he hadn't. It smiled. Then Ryan felt a hand on his shoulder, but there was no one behind him. He screamed, but no sound came out. He looked into the mirror again. The reflection was gone, and the room behind him was empty. He was inside the glass now, watching.